everyone, welcome to From London with Love, with me, Lin Clive, on ALB UK TV. Today we are joined by Elle Ismaili, a surgical doctor. Hello.
Përshëndetje, dashur. So I've just said hello in Albanian. Hi, lovely. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing today?
I'm not too bad. Thank you very much.
You look gorgeous.
Thank you. So you do. Thank you very much.
I've introduced you as a surgical doctor, so I'm going to start with that point because there are lots of topics we're going to cover with you today. So tell me a little bit more about you. What did you do? When did you finish med school?
So yes, surgical doctor, guilty as charged. I graduated in 2012 and I've undergone the UK medical training. So we do our initial foundation training and then I decided to specialise in obstetric and gynecology. But my aim is cancer surgery. So that is where I'm heading at the moment. It's been a long road. I've graduated, as I said, since 2012. But it's been a very, very rewarding one, especially in the last 6 months, and I'm sure people are very aware.
Yeah, but we are aware about this rewarding career. But tell me about the challenges.
The challenges. Where do I start? Is it the long hours? Is it the fact that you have to be there and watch people suffer? And sometimes you can't save everybody. Is it the fact that it's overwhelming and we are understaffed, and without even acknowledging the last 6 months, especially during the pandemic, the lack of PPE and so forth, there are several challenges. But I would say the rewards will have to overtake the challenges. I think you have to have a passion for medicine in order to want to do it, because the challenges are there. And they would interrupt your career if you actually concentrated on only the challenges. But as I said, the rewards are significantly higher.
And now with COVID, I think, of course, everything is more challenging now, especially within the health industry. In your specialty, in your area, how's things now?
So we are slowly going back to normality, very slowly. During the worst time of the pandemic, during the lockdown, a lot of our elective operations were stopped.
Yeah.
That was in order for the staff to concentrate on the people affected by corona, and also by the fact that we didn't want to put patients at risk who needed an elective procedure. So the only procedures done were the emergency procedures and some of the cancer procedures as well. We haven't gone back to normal 100%. However, we are very slowly going back to normality. So all the specialities and doctors in the relevant specialities have gone back to doing what they did prior to the lockdown and prior to the pandemic starting. So we're getting there. We are aware that the waiting list for the elective procedures are very high as affected by the pandemic, but we're trying very hard to get back to what we would have called a normality.
So in terms of in the aspect of the patient, do you think patients stop attending even if they have treatment sessions because of being worried about attending the hospital or being worried to leave the home? So if we put ourselves in the patient's shoes, so tell me more about them.
That's very accurate. What we started to do during the worst of the pandemic was telephone consultations. Yeah. So we would ring patients and ask how they were and listen to their symptoms, their concerns, and so forth. However, during the oncology clinics especially, I had several patients that I really wanted for them to come into hospital because of the type of symptoms that they presented with. And I thought there were red flag, what we call as red flag symptoms. And I very often I was faced with the response, no, I'm not taking the risk. I'm not coming to the hospital because I'm worried of, contracting coronavirus because it's such a high risk area. And that we were faced with that quite a lot. We were speaking to A&E doctors. They were faced with patients presenting very, very late, whether it's with cancer symptoms, for example, or whether there were other diseases, they would present very late. Why? Because they were worried if they came into A&E, there would be high risk, and there would be a higher risk of contracting the COVID-19. So we saw a lot of that. So we, as doctors, we try to understand where they were coming from, but then is that risk versus benefits balance of, would the patient be worse off with the symptoms that they have in comparison to them contracting corona? So, as doctors, we have to relate the information. Yes, you would be at risk of contracting corona. However, if we didn't investigate you for this, or if we didn't do this procedure, you'd be at higher risk of maybe morbidity or even mortality later on.
And did you personally face like incidents where patients refused to come to the treatment completely, or it affected them on later stages?
I have. So we follow up, for example, patients who were diagnosed with cancer and where they've had a surgical procedure, or whether they've had chemotherapy or radiotherapy, we would then follow them up to 5 years after that procedure. And ideally, for example, in the first year, we would see them every 4 months to make sure that the disease is not reoccurring and the patient is well. And several times our patients have said, no, I'm not coming for a checkup because I'm worried about contracting corona, and I have this disease and I have that other disease. So it was very difficult trying to see patients from that point of view. But then again, as their doctor, I understood where they were coming from, and it was a big decision for us to ask patients to come in during the worst of the pandemic, I'd like to think. So it's just that balance of, me relating my concerns to the patient and then making that decision together, that patient-doctor decision, what was best for them, all in all.
That's one thing, but if we think deeper in the case, like also the effect mentally on patients. So how do you think it affected them, like if we say mentally?
I think this pandemic has affected everybody in some way, shape or form, be it physically, mentally, emotionally. Now, I'm sure anybody can understand being a patient, having symptoms, having the potential of, for example, having cancer, and then not being able to present yourself to the specialists and having the investigation and the appropriate treatment possible. That caused a lot of problems with patients. And then for example, that's the cancer side. For them, from the obstetric sides, mothers, pregnant women not being able to come into hospital until very late, for example, or even delivering at home because they were scared of not only being in a hospital where corona's a high risk, but delivering on their own, not having the partners present. It's installed a lot of fear into people. It's caused a lot of mental health issues, and a lot of people have been affected by it, be it patients or be it just normal population.
And what about you personally? Because you've been in the middle of it all.
Now, I was very proud of myself that since I graduated, I had never cried or gotten upset at work, and the corona hit.
Yeah.
I was involved with a patient. She was very poorly, very sadly passed away. And everything that was happening around us, it got to me. At the end of my shift, I remember running out of the hospital, going into my car, and I just broke down. I was in floods of tears. And it wasn't a specific reason, it was just everything combined together. The patients being affected, the people dying alone, not having any family members around. It was a very, very sad, horrible time, not only for the patients, not only for the relatives, but also for the doctors and the nurses and all the medical professionals being around. And watching these people die without having the means to do something, especially if they were very, 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 very unwell, despite medical advances and despite medical help, they still passed away. That was extremely sad. I'm not going to lie, it affected me. really did affect me. I thought I was stronger than that, but no, it really got to me. You know, seeing human suffering and not being able to do something about it, it's definitely affected us. I speak on behalf of doctors. Really,
health workers being heroes during this time, what they did, we're just all thankful and proud. And I'm proud of you.
Thank you very much.
Ellie, I met you in a pageant industry, completely different side of what you're talking about. So you combine beauty and brain. That's what I can call it. Right. Tell me about your pageant. So why you decided to enter pageants? Because that's a breaking stereotype for many people. Because I think you either pretty or you either brainy.
So when I got into medical school, I was asked by a friend of mine to participate in a fashion show organised by the medical school to raise money for the British Heart Foundation. Mm-hmm. And honestly, they said, "You're tall, you're slim, I'd like for you to be in this fashion show." So I said, okay, it's for charity. I love doing things for charity personally. Yeah. So I couldn't say no. Anyway, long story, I then was scouted by a high fashion modeling agency. So during my medical school, I was also modeling, and I've done London Fashion Week, Paris and Milan Fashion Week. Wow. I did that throughout medical school. And then when I started working that, I thought I left that behind until a friend of mine applied on my behalf for the Miss Great Britain. And lucky for me, I was then chosen as Miss Central London. And then we did the pageant and I was top 5, which was a massive surprise. I didn't think, I remember I was talking to a friend when they called out the top 15 and I didn't expect to be called out in the top 15 at all. And she was watching live and she then was messaging me going, "Oh, you need to go out on stage. Your name has been called out." So it was all, I didn't expect it. I thought, you know what, it's an experience. Why not just do it? It's a one-off thing. Yeah. I enjoyed it. It was great fun. And as you said, stereotypical people have this vision or this myth about pageants, but I, having lived it myself, I can completely disagree with those stereotypical thoughts of people are not very nice to one another. There's a lot of competition. It wasn't like that at all. I'm sure you remember it as well. It was very different.
Amazing experience.
People were just very supportive. We all looked very different from one another, and we all were trying to fix each other's dresses before going on stage. So each and everyone would present the best version of themselves.
And are you planning to do more in pageants?
No, I think I've had my fair share of pageants. I've enjoyed it, don't get me wrong. I loved it as an experience. It's something that I will take away and the memories made from it. But I think concentrating on my career, I want to be a cancer surgeon, I think that takes priority for now.
We wish you all the best with your career, Ellie. For ladies who are watching us, I think you have so many things to do and you're doing a lot and they're struggling to balance stuff on their life. So from you, what do you give them as advice or tips, or how do you balance your life?
That's a difficult one. You know, when you just do things on a regular basis, then it becomes a habit and you don't think about it. I like routine. I'm a creature of routine, as they would say. I love doing what I do and looking after patients, but as we mentioned earlier, it can take out of you quite a lot. And it's important for us as doctors, for example, to take care of ourselves first, then we can look after our patients better. I start my day at 5:30 in the morning. I love exercise, I love to run, so I always start my days exercising, or whether going to the gym or going for a run. And then work starts at 7:30. And you know, I feel better having exercise. I feel like I've done something for me. And then in the evenings, whenever I finish work, I then dedicate that, whether it's family or friends or colleagues. So that's my breakaway from the work and from routine. As I said, I love doing things for charity. So this month I am running 295 miles in support of refugees for the British Red Cross in order to raise money for them. And I've done the marathon, I've done half marathons, and that's my way, once again, of breaking away. And most importantly, I love traveling. I think if you travel, you literally leave everything behind, and it's your breakaway from work and from reality, and that helps with recharging. So I think it's just striking a balance. It's very easy to be roped into work and a dedication all your hours into work, but that's just not beneficial in terms of the person and their well-being, whether it's physical or mental, and also for the work that they do, and in my case for patient care. So I do need to look after myself in order to look after my patients as well.
There are lots of people who I interviewed before, who I met, and they always say it's not that it's impossible to do whatever, like this thing or that thing, but we always listen to a voice in our head saying, like, it's difficult, we have lots to do, there's no time, there's no... when I'm listening to you talking, I just notice, like, you do have your balance and your routine. Do you not have this sound, which every kind of person have sometimes, about doubting themselves? Like, am I able to do it? Is it too difficult? Do I have too much to do? So what do you think to this?
So if you spoke to my family and friends, and if you asked them to describe them in one word, they'd say stubborn.
Okay.
Very stubborn. And I don't know, like, I would agree. I think everybody has that self-doubt. However, with me, the word impossible, what I've read once is the word impossible, if you break it down, is I am possible. So if you really want to do something, there's nothing that can stand in anyone's way, not just my way, but anyone's way. When I was at school, I was just about to apply for medical school, and I had a mentor at the time. And he said to me, Elle, you're very intelligent. However, getting into medical school is very difficult. There are 10,000 applicants and they only choose 200 people and all the rest. Yeah. And he said, we would recommend that you apply to a different speciality. But no, I wanted medicine, and I applied and I got 4 offers. So I can't have done that badly. So I would suggest, yes, there is that self-doubt. Put it to the side. There's nothing that can stay or be in your way. If you wanted to do something, it's possible. If you wanted to be at medical school and walk the London Fashion Week at the same time, it's possible. If you wanted to be a doctor and be on a pageant show, it's possible.
Yeah,
it's possible. I think as human beings, we are the ones that limit ourselves. And of course, there are circumstances, I can't possibly deny that there are circumstances which could indicate or could prohibit us from achieving what we wish. However, hard work and dedication, I've personally experienced, pays off, really does. And having a very supportive network of family and friends, I can't deny that. Without my family and friends, I wouldn't be where I am today, and I wouldn't be the person that I am.
Well, it's really powerful message, and I hope it reaches everyone, and especially younger generation. Just in a way, because there are lots of effect from, like, social media, from media to our choices in a way. So I really love when I contacted you to come on my show. It's because I want to show something different. I want to show, like, you are able to, if you want, like, beauty pageants and modeling, it's amazing, go for it. But you also can do something else. You can have a career, whatever is the career, just go for something that you love, you're passionate about.
Absolutely, Lynn, I completely agree with you. The reason why I decided to go to the pageant show is because I feel, due to social media, we as a generation, or as a younger generation growing up, things are being very concentrated on the way we look.
Yeah.
The way we look. I have been brought up and raised that a beautiful woman is not just physically pleasant, is a kind person, is a dedicated person, is a loving person. And the reason, as I said, why I joined the pageant is because I wanted to be some form of role model. That, yes, okay, I was deemed to be number 5 for the Great Miss Great Britain. However, and I was, deemed to be a certain way of looking. But that doesn't just define me. We're not defined by the way we look. the fact that I've been so dedicated to go to medical school and achieve what I've achieved and wanting to help people, especially the vulnerable and the sick, that is so much more powerful. And there's so much more to how people look in photos and in pictures. There's more to just the physical appearance. I think there's a lot to say about the inner beauty and the way we perceive and the way we come across to others. And if there's one thing I want to leave with anyone today is, help someone today, and then that person can help somebody else tomorrow. And, with all that's happened in the world, we are one race. It's the human race, no matter what color, what gender, what nationality, what shape, what size. We are all humans. And if you're kind and spread kindness, I think that goes a long way. But that's my personal belief.
Really, thank you so much for being my guest today. I enjoyed interviewing you, and such an inspiring and a role model.
Thank you so much for having me, for inviting me. It's been a pleasure.
Do you want to finish with Albanian saying?
Ju përshëndes të gjithëve dhe ju uroj të mirat në familjet tuaja.
You, my lovely viewers, see you next week in a new episode with From London with Love. Thank you.